All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Kentucky OLR work session. Um, we're going to be covering a couple of things today that I will bring up for you here in a second. But I do want to make sure that everybody gets online before we get started as much as possible. So I'll give people just a little bit to get online here. For the last people to come on in. Let's see here. So let's just give it a few more moments, and do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Just give us your name and your district so we know who's here.
Hey, Tony, it's Kim.
Hi, Kim. How's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
Do you have anything you want to say at the beginning here?
Yeah, just a little bit. Just wanted to, by the way, this session was created because somebody reached out to us and said they would love to have a work session. And we thought it was a great idea, so we put it together. So if anybody else, has ideas like that, feel free to shoot them out to us. You never know what's going to happen. So that being said, this is going to focus mostly on the home language survey, since there were lots of changes because of the new legislation. But if we have time, we definitely want to bring up other things. So if there are things that people want to talk about other than the home language survey, please bring that up afterwards, and we'll try to get to it.
Yep. All right. So with all that said, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to start out with the instructions that were sent out for that home language survey. So we do have step-by-step instructions that Kim's provided us with, along with screenshots that really help us out. So these are very detailed instructions. I've been over them as an OLR trainer, and I can see that they are pretty extensive and very straightforward if you follow them. I've gone ahead and set up in my training site a home language survey Pleat that meets this. So you can see I've created a Kentucky OLR configuration group here. All right. And so if I go into the OLR builder, I'll be able to see what that is supposed to look like. So I'm in Census online registration, OLR setup, and I'm here in the OLR builder tab. And if I open up student, this little caret here, and then scroll down, I do have this language information Pleat. All right. So let's go over the instructions that we have from KDE here. So our first step is to disable the friend language field. All right. So if we look in our builder right here within the Pleat, we can see that the friend language field is blacked out, right? That means that's inactive. So if I open that up, I'll see that this disabled checkbox is checked. That's our first step. All right. So the first step, again, go into Census, online registration, OLR setup, OLR builder, locate the language information folder within student and friend language in the drop list, and just click that disabled button. All right. Step 2 is to create the parent agreement checkbox. So this is a new field. In order to do this, we just come in here to the builder again, and we can click new field down here. Okay. I went ahead and created that field.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, I got to jump on the Zoomer here. I just wanted to get an opinion of what I should be expecting.
Sorry about that, Michelle. I had to mute you. So I've created this parent acknowledgement field. All right. So the field name is parent acknowledgement, display name parent acknowledgement. You can see we've got the space there. In the display name, we can have spaces. In the field name, we cannot. For the field type, I've selected checkbox. Validation, this is a required field, so they're required to acknowledge this, right? It's in the student index, in the language information Pleat. I'm showing for new students. I've made the sequence 100 so that it appears at the bottom. And then there is no parent field or value there, no post object or post element. All right, let me grab this chat here real quick. Okay, yeah, just Shane. Hi, Shane. All right, so once we have created that field, our next step in the home language setup is to show for new only, right? So this is because we're only allowed to ask new families these questions, right? We can click on this language information folder. So this is for the whole Pleat, right? And we're only showing that Pleat for new families. Those are families who are registering through the email kiosk link, right? So if you need the answer to these questions, the people that are filling out the application must be going through the email or the kiosk link, and we're showing this only for new students. All right. So our next step, once we've done that, is to go down to the literals bank. Here's where we get Melissa. Yeah, so they can't go through the portal if they're enrolling a new student and show that time. No, that Pleat will only show up for people who are going through the email or kiosk link. All right. So going into the site again, we're going down to System Admin, Data Utilities, Multi-Language Editor. We're going to go into the OLR Literals Bank. I'm making sure that I'm in the correct configuration here, this Kentucky OLR. All right. And then the OLR Literals Bank category. I'm going to select the caret next to student, and I'm going to open up the language information area. All right. So if we look at our instructions, we have instructions on exactly what each one should say, and we have a database name for each field, right? So this student.lang.first, that's the database name for the field. So we can look student.lang.first should say, what language does your child most frequently speak at home? Now, right now, it may say something along these lines, right? This is what our out of the box language is.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
There's a question in the box. Just want to pause for a second. One of them is for KDE, and it was asked about, instead of using the OLR to ask a new family that's coming in, they usually get the form from the other district. That's kind of a program area question. I will definitely forward that to Wendy and have her talk to all the coordinators about that to make sure. What I was understood through the program area was that it just needed to be asked when they come to the district. So if that's not the case, we'll definitely get that out. But thanks for bringing that up. The second question was, I have a question under Census. Under Census, there is a home language box. Is there a way for the Census box to reflect what is entered in OLR? No. So unfortunately, the answer to that is definitely no. There is no way, because we're not asking what language they're asking on this. We're just asking if they speak another language. So that actually has to be done separately when the coordinator contacts the family.
And I'll be showing you later, if we do have time, how to set up that notification so that your Title III coordinator receives a notification when somebody selects a language other than English for one of these questions.
Right. Thanks, Tony.
Mhm. So we've got the student.lang.first. We've corrected that language to this rather than this. And remember, the translation column is what shows up in your application. So that's the column you'll want to modify. Next, we have student.lang.home, which we're changing to reflect this language. What language do you most frequently speak to your child? All right. So if we go to student.lang.home, what language do you most frequently speak to your child? This is what's currently there, or what came out of the box, which is not correct. This is what it should be. All right. So next, we have update translation box for student.lang.parent. All right. No, you do not need to change the literal side to match the translation side. The literal side in the English language group does absolutely nothing. You can write little notes to yourself like, good job. All right. So looking at student.lang.parent, it's right here. Which language did your child learn when they first began to talk? Right? As it comes out of the box, OLR will say parent guardian language here. Yeah, it's okay if you did change that. Again, the literals column in the English language group does absolutely nothing. Melissa Parkinson, I just want to clarify my question just to make sure I'm understanding correctly. If I have a parent that has a current students and enrolls a K student, will they need to complete these questions? If so, I'm understanding correctly that they won't see them because they aren't accessing OLR through the email kiosk link. That's correct. If they don't access OLR through the email kiosk link, they will not see these questions. So you'll still need to collect that information in a different way. Brittany, our district has already opened the 22-23 OLR, working on translating it for our rollout. If we make the change now in 21-22, we can update our 22-23 OLR. Is that something that we need to change manually? So you can change it directly in the 22-23, but I would close it while you're making those changes because those changes do happen live. I would defer to Kim on whether or not she wants to change it immediately. But when you make those changes, they do happen live. And Leif says, I have the correct questions by my codes, but my codes are named differently. Does that matter?
Not at all. Yeah. Meaning she's talking about the code name. If they have, instead of student language first, maybe they have student language first name. I don't know, but
Okay.
that doesn't
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, I mean, it just needs to be in there. It should be, yeah, okay. These usually won't be different from site to site, which is why they were used in the instructions. But if they're a little bit different, that doesn't really matter as long as you have all of those questions in there.
Right. And as far as the incoming kindergartner student, so some people use the parent portal link for that. Some people do use the new link for incoming kindergartners for existing families. So in that case, if you have an incoming kindergarten like rollout where you want to get all your kindergartners in, let's say beginning March 1st through May, whatever, maybe you don't want to put the parent portal link out there and you just want to use the new link for those new students coming in.
Yeah, that is a strategy that I've seen before where schools will open up the email kiosk link for that time period for the kindergarten roundup rather than the portal new student link, just so everybody can use that same link and set up that portal account. And then when you're processing, you just have to make sure that you're linking existing families to their person records in campus. Jamie, we have used OLR several years prior to KDE offering, so our OLR builder options are customized. Is there a way to receive the default fields for the language information folder? You will probably want to look at what the field or what the pleat is supposed to look like in the end, which I believe is up top up here. Nope. Okay. Let's take a look. Do we have that screenshot, Kim, of what that pleat is supposed to look like in the end?
I'm sorry, I was reading the other question. Which one are we looking at? The new one?
Jamie, she wants to receive the default fields for the language information folder. I was going to tell her to mimic the screenshot that we have in here, but I don't see the screenshot
There
here.
should have been one right after that.
Yeah.
It's not showing that one. Isn't
Well,
that
no, we're looking for like the end product for the pleat.
for each field?
Yeah, just looking at the end product for the pleat. I guess I can show it. I don't know if I've got an application in though.
Right. If you just go to the pleat
Yeah.
itself, is that what you're thinking?
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've got an application in for that configuration though.
Like, I'm not really sure what she means by default fields. Is she talking about the list in the OLR setup?
Yeah, so if we go back into the literals bank and we're in the Kentucky OLR configuration, student language information, right? She is saying that we don't have, that she doesn't have the original database, probably because they've modified it.
They've probably modified it or done something
Yeah.
differently. Yes, sure,
Yeah.
no problem. I mean, yeah,
So
they would have to, again, like you said before, as long as the translation and the questions are all showing the way they're supposed to,
mhm,
it doesn't matter what the code name is named, as
Mhm.
long as it's showing the correct questions that the home language survey should show.
yeah,
So they can just take their existing fields, whatever they're named, and type the correct questions in the translation.
yeah.
Just to follow up, somebody else just mentioned, that they're stuck on the thing where we talk about the new students can't really use the portal to put them in because you're not going to see that pleat. And we struggled with this too. I talked to the program area Wendy about it, and the legislation is pretty strict on saying that existing families shouldn't be asked this question over and over again. So that's why we took it out of the parent portal section, and we only want to put it in new and the kiosk link as well. I don't know if I explained that correctly or very well, but but yes, I understand that is an extra step. Unfortunately, legislation makes it where we can't continue to ask this question over and over again for every year.
So the only way to be sure that you're not asking it to existing students is to keep it specifically in the new students area rather than in the existing students area.
Yes, and someone else just reiterated, said that, so think of this more for new families and not new families with existing families. Yes, but also you still need to make sure that you're filling those out for those existing families, but you will already have records for those existing families. Your coordinators will already have connections with them. So, definitely they need to contact them. But again, as I said, if you are using that new look or that new student link instead of the parent portal with your incoming kindergartners, they will see that pleat.
Rex, so for our kindergarten students, we have the parents with existing students use the parent portal, and then they complete a pre-registration in the parent portal. They add a new kindergarten student. They're asked the HLS questions because the student is new to us in Infinite Campus. No, Rex, this Pleat will only exist in the email and kiosk links.
I think he had it on there last year, which is probably correct, because that is a new part of the legislation this year, is not
Okay.
to continue to ask existing families the same question about home language survey.
Yeah.
So Rex, have you switched the Pleat over to show for new and not new and existing?
It's only for new. I'm in there right now as a parent.
Oh, and it shows?
What?
And it shows for it?
It does. Because this student is a new student for our Infinite Campus.
Well, there you go. Tony? That
Yep,
sounds
I
amazing.
can confirm that too. Yep. So then
Okay.
new is gonna be the kiosk email, but also portal new students as well. Yep, you got it.
Okay, great. That's wonderful.
Well,
That
yay.
must be new.
Yep, that's new. That's relatively new. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, Nick. And thanks, Rex.
Yes.
All
thank
right.
you.
So looking back at our instructions here, I do want to get through the rest of those. So if we look at student.lang.student, what is the language most frequently spoken at home? Right? Student.lang.student, what is the language most frequently spoken at home? Right now, that might look something like that. We need to change it over to that. All right. And then student.lang.ell. We do have this optional, in which language would you prefer to receive all school information? And if we look at that, we've got, need to change this to optional. In which language would you prefer to receive school information? All right. We also have our big long parent acknowledgement that we added by checking this box. This should be your last field in the literals bank when you add that in, and it should say parent acknowledgement starting literal if you've added that checkbox. No, Renee, you're only supposed to ask it about a new student, not about existing students, right? So it's in the portal for the new student, not existing students. So that's still correct. All right. So we have this modified. The next place we need to go in our OLR literals bank category. Let's save that before we go. Is down to our receipt section. So we'll go to receipt, student, and language. Now, normally the receipt is used as a summary, but Kim, if you can speak to this a little bit, we've kept this literally what those questions are in the form. Is that mandated, and that's why we're doing it that way?
So it just gives you a paper, a receipt, basically. So when they answer those questions and when you get it in the receipt, you can actually keep those on file if you want. You can forward them to your coordinator. You can use them in a way where it just basically shows exactly how they answered those questions.
Okay. So we're keeping it this way because that's part of the law, is having this specific language, and we want to make sure that we can print it that way. All right. So I did have in the background one of my fellow trainers, Margaret, on here put in an application. So if I go to staff processing and I go to application number 14, here we've got Kentucky Test, right? And we can take a look at this application and what that language area is supposed to look like. So if I go to my student, edit and review, and scroll down, here's my language information Pleat. And this is what I'm looking for. All right. So feel free to take your screenshots. I'll pause there for a second. Yeah. Margaret's thinking the same thing. Take your screenshots. This is what this pleat should look like. And Jill, you said you put preferred language question on each guardian instead of on the student language section, so we can post it to IC. And Kim says she doesn't see that as a problem. Okay. All right, does everybody have the screenshot they need? Okay. So we'll go ahead and minimize that. So Melissa, I believe Kim is sending this out in an email to everybody here at least. Kim, is that the case?
Oh, she was talking about Jill's, the way Jill was doing
Oh.
it. So, which is a little different. But I do like the fact that, and this is something I wanted to bring up too. OLR is really about how your district wants to use it. And Jill has a great example of that. And she decided to add something that was more helpful for her district. You guys are welcome to do things like that. When we give you these, this information, we're really just giving it to you mainly just for those questions, because the questions have to match the home language survey because of the legislation. How you get all the other information is up to you. Yep, Kim, Jill, that would be great. Yeah, if you can send it to me too.
And there are a number of ways to get this stuff done. So feel free to share, creative ideas with how to meet those requirements. As you will. That's one of the reasons it's nice to network on a call like this and see who's here, so that later on you can say, oh, I'm going to email that Rex guy and find out how he did that, right? Or Jill in this case. Yeah. So we've set up our home language survey. Let's also show what that notification looks like. All right. So here in online registration, OLR setup, I'm going to go to the OLR notification editor. And I've named my home language survey notification ELL. All right, so I'm sending this ELL notification in student context. I'm sending it whenever there's a status change, any submitted status. So this will send out when there's a submitted application in which a student or a parent has indicated that a student is ELL, right? The notification text, and that's like the email subject line, will be a new ELL student has applied. It will take that person to the staff processing screen if they click on the link. This is for any school, any grade within my district. I'm only sending for new students. I'm sending that to the Title III coordinator user group. All right. And I triggered that on student language, not in English. So anytime somebody selects a language that is not English in the student language field, it's going to trigger this notification. All right. I did not filter this on calendar rights, so the Title III coordinator can be whoever I have in that user group. So you want to make sure that you have appropriate user rights in that user group, and make sure that the people who are in that user group have the appropriate calendar rights. I've made it active with this active checkbox, and I'm sending this as a process message and an email. All right. Process message going to their Infinite Campus. Right when they log in, they can see their process messages, and then email going to their email that's listed. All right. Feel free to take screenshots of that. Questions on this notification? Okay. So we will move on then and talk about the homeless Pleat. So this is for our McKinney-Vento kids, right?
Hey, before
Here-
we jump in here, let
Mhm.
me give a disclaimer.
Yeah.
So we gave this information is in on our OLR website. It actually is a new one. We've kind of gone through and changed the questions, but this is just a suggestion. This is not a requirement. So when we're sending this to you, we'll go over it. But if you have another way of doing this and it follows all the rules and you're happy with it, you do not have to change this. So, and also before we run through this, I wondered if there was any other questions on the home language survey.
Melissa had a good question about her applicants when we were looking at the notification editor. She said she has a lot of applicants who apply from Georgia by mistake. And so she wondered if she could do it only after she had processed the application. In order to do that, we, instead of send notification on status change, any submitted status, we would just say any posted status, right? And that would change that over.
And then if you're not even worried about it until after it's been like approved and then it's been through student processing and the student has an enrollment, we could go actually change it to status notification there and not status change, but when it's been through student processing, the very bottom one there. So that's after the student's been given enrollment. Maybe that's when your Title III folks might want that notification. That's an option too there.
Yep. Thanks, Dick. All right. Any other questions on home language survey or notification?
Not seeing any other questions. I will go ahead and put a link to the online registration website that Case's team just created. On that page is a copy of not only the one we just went over, the home language survey instructions, but also the one he's about to talk about with the McKinney-Vento homeless Pleat. So you can refer back to that website to get these instructions as well.
All right. So I will point out, just like Kim said, this is a suggestion, that's not a requirement. So what we're trying to get our Pleat to look like with this is this right here, where we're sharing out so that parents know to select one of these options if any of these are true. So we're sharing out those options ahead of time before they answer yes or no. And then we have those options in the selection down here. All right. So a lot of this is already in your site. And it'll just be a little extra typing of some of this text. So if we go down, we say start by creating or editing the current housing Pleat in OLR setup. Now, most of this should be in there if you haven't changed. So if I go into my OLR builder, into student housing, I should have most of that in there. So I've got the footer, the header, the homeless question, yes, no radio, homeless spacer was one that I added, housing instructions header, and housing situation drop to radio. All right. Those are the fields that we will need in order to continue. All right. So looking back at my instructions, I have housing header, and I've got described what each of those should be in order for this to work. Sequence you can set yourself if you need to, but this sequence that we have set up right now works. So if you want to copy everything here, this will mimic that field or that pleat as we have it set up. So we've got this information for the housing header, and you'll receive these instructions. We've got the housing instructions here. Homeless question here, continues on to the next column. Housing situation and housing spacer. And that's exactly how we have each of those set up. Kim, will you be making the recording available? Loretta was asking because she needs to leave the meeting.
Oh, absolutely. What we'll do is, wait, we did record this, didn't we?
Yeah, we're recording right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll just send me a link after this and I'll put it on the OLR website that I put in the chat.
Sounds good.
So yes, we'll put it on the OLR website.
Excellent. So next we'll create or edit fields in the literals bank. Or we'll edit the fields in the literals bank. We don't create fields in there. So we do have, again, this database name and the language that should be next to it. So if we go to the literals bank, so we're going to system admin, data utilities, multi-language editor, OLR literals bank. Here in the OLR literals bank category, we're selecting student housing. And this is what it should look like. You can take a screenshot because that all fits on the same screen, except for this bit. And there are clear instructions on what to add here. So if we bring those up, student.housing title should be housing, student.housing footer should be left blank. Here's our language for the student.housing.header. These little B and P tags in here are HTML. Those are just to separate things out. So this is your heading there that will be in bold. This is your paragraph tag. And so these paragraph tags are just in there to make sure that those are on separate lines, so that when you end up in the application itself, we have these lines in here. All right. So after we copy these into the appropriate areas, we've got a screenshot here that shows what that looks like. Then we need to open up the lists bank. All right, so we'll go back into the site. So we're still in system admin, data utilities, multi-language editor. Go over to OLR list bank. And the list we're looking for is person homeless. And this is what that needs to look like. So here in the description, we've got doubled up. The code is share. Hotels, motels. The code is hotel. Shelters and transitional housing. The code is shelter. Unsheltered, inadequate housing. The code is non-standard or non-STD. All right. So you can take a screenshot of that if you would like. That's what that list looks like. Now, if you want to delete any of the fields, say you've got extra options in here, you can just click this trash can to delete those out. That's only deleting them from the OLR list, not from any other list that you have in campus. L. McDonald does this right back to the homeless information under program participation. If we go up into our OLR setup, OLR builder, and under student housing, we've got our housing situation drop to radio. Right now, this is not set up to map back anywhere. So the post object is blank and the post element is blank. If you want to map it back somewhere, you'll have to look in here to see if there's anything in these. And if there's not, then it's not currently mapping back somewhere. You could create a custom tab or custom attribute to house those things, but currently it's not writing back.
And we don't really, this is Kim again, we don't really recommend it. You can if you want, but what we're really looking for is for you to set up a notification to your coordinator to go back into that family to make sure that their housing situation follows those guidelines.
Rex said he noticed that there was a link on the instructions here. That link is going to, looks like the legislation.
Is it not
Yeah.
working?
And then there's the KDE webpage.
No, I didn't mean the link on the instructions. I meant the link in the actual Pleat itself, but maybe it's going to that legislation.
Yeah, let's take a look.
It should
So,
be.
Yeah,
oh, so this is mine. This is an additional thing that I have in mine. Yeah.
I didn't put that there. That's a Tony
Yeah.
thing.
Okay, all right, sorry, I just was
Yeah.
curious where that was going.
You could have that link in there if you want, and then just link it to the McKinney-Vento
Absolutely.
legislation if you want to. Yeah.
Be as fancy as you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, someone asked if you can only post this info to a custom tab. Tony,
So it's not only custom tabs, but it's mostly custom tabs. So if I take a look back at this, I do have some post objects and post elements that aren't custom tabs. But I'm probably not going to have the one that we want here. I might though. So it will depend. If you locate something in here that's that you're able to post back to, you can give it a shot. But again, Kim was saying that they don't necessarily recommend that we do that. And really the only way to be sure that something you find in here is where you expect it to be is to create that custom tab and then locate it. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily just select something from your post object menu to put that back to. All right. Does that make sense?
does to me.
All right. What other questions do we have? What else can I help with?
So I know we have some people on here. Oh, someone just asked, does each county have to be added or country had to be added under the custom attribute, or is there another way? I'm not really sure what she's talking about. Are you talking about on the questionnaire? We only have a few languages on there, and then we have an other that's supposed to get all of them. We don't really have on the questionnaire all of the languages.
Okay, so on my list, I'm going to have a lot of languages because that's what I have available in my site, right? So here I've got a ton of languages, but you can control what's in your language list in the OLR list bank. So we just come back here to System Admin, Data Utilities, Multi-Language Editor, OLR list bank. And in person language, this is where you'll find that list. All right. So this is what I have in my site. Whatever you have in your site is what you have and what will pull in for those questions. So if there's anything that you don't want in there, you can get rid of it. If you want to resequence so that like English and Spanish show up at the top, you can just sequence those 1 and 2. Everything with a 3 is just sequenced alphabetically, right? G. Hankins, if you post to a custom tab, it will roll over for every year. It will need to be cleared for the next school year. Can IC do that for us? So if you're posting to a custom tab, there's a couple of different ways to do custom tabs. So if I go to System Admin Custom Tab, I have a few different tab types. So if I create a new custom tab, The single screen editor overwrites each year, right? So every time I put in a new application that has things writing to that custom tab, in that single screen editor, it just overwrites that, and I don't have any history of how it was answered before. So on the bright side, I have at my fingertips the most up-to-date information. On the downside, I don't have any record of how it was answered in the past. A table editor custom tab will give you a snapshot every time those questions are answered. So it says, okay, on June 1st at 9 a.m., when I processed this application, this is how those questions were answered. On June 1st, the following year at 10 a.m., this is how those questions were answered. And you can go back through and look at historically how those questions were answered. So depending on how you set up that custom tab, that will depend on the way that you access that data.
So I get this question a lot. Moving on to another topic. How do districts handle their FRAM applications or their HIF forms, or what do you want to call it? And I try to tell districts that they can handle it in several different ways. It just depends on how their district runs and what's best for them. But is there anybody on this call that maybe does all of their FRAM information on their OLR or through their OLR, or how do they do it if they want to turn their mics on and let us know?
I can jump in and see what I've seen with some other districts.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah. Well, one way is to kind of like hit families when they're doing an application at different points in the application to complete, their FRAM stuff. So some districts will put, links at various places, right? So when the instructions page pops up, they might have a link there to say, hey, complete your FRAM application, or put another link when they hit submit, put another link there. Included in your status letters as well. So, hopefully at some point throughout the OLR process, they see that and then go and complete their OLR application. So that's what some districts will do. Let me look at my notes if there's some other ones. Some districts will also create, particular like pleats that kind of ask about income and things like that. And then depending on how they answer those questions, that might trigger a notification to get sent out to your FRAM folks as well. So it can be a little more targeted there as well, and then reach out to parents directly through that notification too. So just a few options there, but I'd love to hear what other people are doing as well, just for my own as well. Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Tracy Griffin from Lincoln County. We tried to do our FRAM on through the portal a few years ago, but I have a question about it. It specifically says that it's good for so many days. We have about 4,000 students, and sometimes our OLR applications aren't processed before that deadline. So our household information is not up to date when we're trying to necessarily process FRAM applications. How does all of that work together?
Yeah, so when you set up your FRAM preferences, you can set them up to expire, days within the next school year. So if you set those benefits to expire, say 30 days into the next school year, then you'll have the opportunity to process those applications before those benefits expire. So that's just one way of handling that, is set your expiration to 30 days into the next school year for FRAM.
That's my point, is it says 30 days. We don't have all of our applications processed in 30 days.
Okay.
We have schools with 1,000 kids that they don't get them processed that fast when we're trying to update for the beginning of the year.
Okay, so one thing you could do is create some kind of notification that goes out to your processing clerks to see whether or not this application is going to involve FRAM. And if you're triggering a notification, to prioritize those so that you get through those faster than other applications. I don't know, Nick, if you have any other suggestions with that.
Yeah, I think that's one option for sure. Yeah.
Anybody else have another idea about Tracy's issue with FRAM applications or FRAM benefits expiring before you get all your applications processed?
I just want to say if you are having that problem, I hope that you are getting some answers from maybe Laura Lohman's office at KDE. Feel free to reach out to them. They could probably give you some guidance.
Actually, Kim, Laura is no longer working with FRAM. It's Sam Engstrom.
Thank you, Jen. I didn't realize that. Okay. Then
Yep.
it was Sam Engstrom.
Yes.
Or Jennifer Winburn. Well, actually, be helpful as well.
I can't help. That's true. I'll do my best.
Jen, do you hear anybody else, since you are talking, in districts that are using OLR for FRAM and how they're doing it?
The majority of them are doing it through their campus portal with their FRAM application, but not through their OLR application. That way they send it through the portal and it automatically processes the form because they can do it in batches to eliminate that 30-day count.
That is a great suggestion. Yes. Well, and something also to keep in mind, they can't do that parent portal if they're brand new and they don't have a parent portal yet. So OLR is step one. Some people
Right.
do have a Pleat on there that says, look for your FRAM application after your parent portal is set up, that kind of thing.
We use the portal. So we have a food service Pleat for our campus and then we use the campus meal application. So we have a Pleat that states, that you have to use the portal. If you're new to the district, you'll have to get your campus portal account and then go back. And so we have a whole process. And then we also created, because we're a full CEP district, we created a campus meal application flyer. So we, and then we work to communicate with our staff and different things. But that's how we use it. We started out with online registration. We had a link for our CEP and our non-CEP, and we had a link to one application if it was this, another application if you were not CEP, but we're now full CEP. So we changed and we now use the campus meal application, but rather than have a link to that through online registration, we just have a disclosure in the on the food service Pleat. And then we direct people through our meal flyer and lots of communications to go back, just like they use parent portal. You click more and do online registration, you do more in campus meal application. But we created a flyer and did a lot of PR work, on how that process would work and how it changed from where we originally started. Because I think we're in our 5th or 6th year of using online registration. So it's kind of evolved a little bit.
Thanks, Valerie. I knew you were on here and I was hoping you were going to talk.
Yeah.
She has done this for a long time and she's 100% paperless in her district. So she's a great resource for this as well.
I am dropping in the knowledge base article on FRAM. So if you want to do some studying, there's a lot of stuff in here that you can study up on for how that tooling works.
Tony and Kim, I have a question. We implemented our OLR last summer with Tony's help. And this year they are wanting to do the FRAM. Our problem that we've run into is we are going to open up for the next school year, April 1. And that is preschool, kindergarten registration and annual updates. Since we can't fill the form out or fill it out until July 1st, we're inevitably going to miss a huge chunk of our applications between April and July with Fram. Is there a way around that? Is there a way to, instead of missing that portion, because we're at 7,000 students. So, and they're going to try to really kick it in gear towards the end of the year. Is there a way that we can make it work having that delay?
Brittany, some of the school districts that I've worked with have had like enrollment events for their OLR. We could probably do this. You could probably do the same thing for Fram. If you, when you're putting those students and families through your OLR, you could say, and July 1st, we're having a school Fram day where we're putting in our Fram applications, and you could bring people into the computer lab at the school and say, okay, we're going to guide you through the Fram application at that point, and just do those online if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Can I share our experience too? Because that has always been a problem because you do want to open your online registration early. And so that's why we created the food service Pleat with disclosures that, it will open after July 1, please go back. And then also we've used, so then once we start posting applications and you can open that window, that's where we use our campus meal flyer. We use Infinite Campus Messenger, to message that out via, email and the process inbox. And then we use another, messaging system to get that out. So it takes a lot of communication. And then there's ways, once you start getting those applications in, you can use your a Fram canned report to see who doesn't have a status and maybe work through that to see, also once you start uploading your DCs. And so anybody left without status, they show blank, and then you can work with your family resource centers, different ways to go back and try to get those applications for anybody who maybe did not go back. But we found using the campus meal application, because we are a full CEP, so that helps. But that is another way to get the parents engaged with the portal and get that application, get them used to using it for more than just one time a year for online registration. But there are some things, there are some different things that you can do. Basically, it just takes getting your people trained to doing it a different way, and then being diligent to going back and checking those things to make sure that you get one for everybody. But there are some different things, and I'm sure other people may have some ideas and things that they do, as far as trying to get those apps when you can't put it in your early opening of online registration for your existing students or your incoming kindergartners or preschoolers.
Yeah, this is all great information. Kim, we are running out of time here. Do you have any wrap up that you would like to do?
I don't right now. I mean, I'm basically just saying that thanks for everybody coming. I think we had some great questions. I think you're right. I think we've got a lot of more questions coming in. If this is something that people want to happen more, just please reach out to me. We can do some more work sessions like this, where it's not really necessarily talking about one thing, although this was focused on home language survey. But if everybody wants, or if they're interested in something else to do, just please reach out to me and I'll set it up. And then until then, they can also reach out to me about other OLR things. But as far as the Fram information, health coordinator, all that stuff, you can definitely talk to me about the OLR processes, but you probably have to talk to the program area about how they really want that done, and your coordinators at your districts. But thanks again, Tony. You've been